I'm being accused and you're being accused. And let's sweep that under the mat and let's try and, if we have to issue a joint statement and say, listen, we've had a meeting, we've resolved our differences, parties have agreed to part ways or to work like this in the future. That's it. That's my kind of idea of an objective. Just to go back to one or two of the things that you discussed yesterday, just to confirm it, Gary's here now. Jacques is no contract with us. It is purely what's actually on the notice boards is unity and community. It was a partnership, as I said to you. There is no contract between us. So, if you've got information from him other ways, then look, that's like me coming and saying, yeah, I'm a director of Pick and Pay, which you might not be able to find out, or I can't justify. So we can't answer for those things. He is effectively a partner in a loose term of the area. He came in 10 years ago, 15, maybe 12, after we'd spoken to Eddie T, Epcan at the time, Beagle Watch, Chubb, Aqua, we had a whole host of them that we'd spoken to. None of them offered the service that Jacques offered. And his offering was based on how many houses I have in the area, I'll put a car in for every so many houses. There was no commitment on our side to provide the houses. In fact, if you go to Jacques' customer base, I think Jacques has about 400 and something houses. We've got, depends on which period you take, but I think the best we've ever had is 287 members on the book. So there's no correlation that, it's a contract between us and him, and it's because of this you get an alarm, because of that you get an alarm, because of the thing with Constantia Resident Forum, I put in one car. He's got a formula. I think it's one car for every 100 houses that he's got, and that's how it works. But we don't have that. We don't have any say over it to say, listen, you must have 4 cars or 5 cars.
So I don't know why we need to discuss this as far as...
No, it's just that I'm trying to clear up something that happened yesterday.
Gary, I think you need to be brought up to speed, but in a shorter version, because yesterday I had to climb into Melbourne.
Yeah,
okay. Now, I think the question would ultimately be who initiated this meeting tonight. And I know that, Mervyn, you put the request through, we'd like to meet. However, I want to bring you up to speed and say that my last words to Mervyn were, because he was on his way to a meeting, Mervyn, having just been told what you've been told by me, on your way to your meeting, if I were you, I would be getting hold of the rest of the guys, i.e. Gary and whomever, and I would be calling for an emergency meeting in order to discuss what I have just learned. So, you sit at the moment and you're in the dark. So I'm going to briefly tell you what happened. I represent 3 legal personas. Myself as Chad Milam, the person, a resident of Constantia Cliff, and a citizen of South Africa. I'm the director of MCOM Pty Limited, a 2-way radio communications company specifically designed to bridge the communication gap between communities and services. And I'm also the founding incorporator, a director, and board chairman of a legally registered NGO called Disaster Relief CERT. So those are the 3 legal personas. In all honesty, this meeting tonight cannot involve my 3rd persona. And I'll explain why in a minute. And this is the crux of where we are as we sit right now. My brief background, I go back in radio communications almost 45 years, number one.
Every radio is 45 years ago.
Yeah, we did. I was actually one of the guys that just missed the CB radio bust of Tony Ferreira at the ice rink. So I started at that point. At the age of 13, I was already making contact with Joburg Traffic Department, Johannesburg Ambulance Department, SAPS by 10111, running operations, etc., etc., etc. But then I moved on from there. And I became the assistant coordinator of manpower and training with the South African Red Cross Society. By the time I became coordinator, I'd already been a volunteer of Red Cross. It must have been the better part of about 8 years. I was a member of Ambulance Detachment 90. When I went on to staff for the first time on Southern Transvaal region, I was already at silver medal first aid qualification. And within the next year and a half, I moved on to do my gold and eventually did emergency medical assistant 1. Now, EMA 1 was the equivalent, or I shouldn't say was, at that time it is the equivalent of the American EMT 1. And that was given to the 3 organizations, voluntary organizations, to train people in first aid, but was not allowed to be used for government departments because of the sanctions. So needless to say, at that time period, the EMA was actually the second highest paramedical background or qualification that the country had. Then province TPA in particular brought in AEA, renamed AMA, then renamed it AEA, because they wanted to split the word medical out and keep that for doctors, general practitioners, etc., etc. So that was the sort of brief background, and then I broke away from Red Cross for a while, and I got into business, and I became general manager of one of the largest video outlets in South Africa. We had 13 branches in total. We had the biggest video store in the Southern Hemisphere. I also worked for one of the developers developing the financial side of the computer equipment. Some of the guys, you guys will remember, you had Video Town out the side. You had Blockbusters Video out the side. I used to come here on a regular basis to upgrade them, fix their PCs and do whatever. But I went back to Red Cross. When I went back to Red Cross, I went back as operations manager for South African Red Cross Society, Southern Transvaal region yet again. During that 3-year period at Red Cross, I'd actually applied to become the national director, operations director, purely because of the fact that I walked away, 1987, I think it was. I walked away from 30 to 40K a month, take home, to 1,600 rand. And the International Committee of the Red Cross had just implemented a new program in South Africa called the Community Organisers Program. This program in Southern Transvaal put 40 community organisers in the townships around us. They worked in teams of 2. Under a guy by the name of Bongani Kamala and Sina Ramakuba. Bongani was assistant regional director, and when he left, he actually became director of, or board chairman of the Lotto board. Today, he still provides some kind of consultancy service to some of the parliamentary committees. Sina, I don't know what happened to Sina, but at that time, through that program, the ICRC doubled my salary, thereby taking me away from the National Society, because we were in the process of moving the National Society into the overall concept of the International Red Cross movement, which was a facet of the movement that South Africa had sort of missed, number one. Number two, there was a political drive to politicize the South African Red Cross, and we needed to ensure the humanity, or from the humanity perspective, neutrality and impartiality was retained. So as operations manager, I also managed to get the ambulance detachments, some of the ambulance detachments, to switch over to what we call special skills units. These guys wore flashes called medical services, radio communications, etc., etc. The COs were part of that program. Now, just to shorten the story, one of the chappies that I trained at Red Cross today is the director of City of Johannesburg Disaster Management, William Azabu. I trained him in first aid. I trained him in radio communications. Him and I and Cynthia Moshesh worked so closely regarding the Vaal Triangle. You know, we were in a political South Africa. We were in apartheid South Africa. I never had friends during that era because of the fact I lived in the townships. That's where the greatest humanitarian need was. Despite that, I still left South Africa at some point. I went overseas. I went to Switzerland. I put in an application to work in Liberia and Lebanon. I wanted to specialize in the trauma there because of the emergency medical assistant. But I also applied to go to Ethiopia and Somalia because I wanted to go and learn about vitamin A deficiencies in terms of the drought and everything that they were experiencing. The downfall to that whole exercise, and it cost me dearly. I packed up lock, stock, and barrel. I left Red Cross. I didn't take the national director. I went overseas. I wanted to go and do this trauma in particular. I wanted to spend at least 4 years in order to bring that experience back to South Africa. South African passport. In UK, I got arrested because they found my CV in my bag. And then, of course, the other countries wouldn't let me in because of the South African passport as well. And after 3 months, I'd run out of money. And my fiancée, funny enough, was in Iraq at that time. She left South Africa. We actually got engaged. 2 hours later, I kissed her goodbye at Jan Smuts Airport. Never saw her again after a year-long relationship. She was in Iraq. First World War. I mean, first Iraqi war. Never saw her again. Needless to say, I came back to South Africa, and then I actually got into the security industry. I was a registered director of Charlie Mike Emergency Services. I was the first one to develop a PC-based application literally 3 months after Vodacom had launched. Literally 3 months after they launched, where alarm systems notified the PC of who, what, where, when the alarm had gone off. I built an entire system on it. Then I integrated it with Vodacom's first short message service, not now known as SMS, but same principle. The only difference was you sent an email or message to an email address, and then it would appear on the phone. And then I sold my security company to Jinton's Armed Response in Robertson. And I got into finances and ended up with the Industrial Development Corporation, where I was assistant loan supervisor for 5.5 years. I signed off the first contract for McDonald's to open its first store. If my signature wasn't on that paper, even though I was only the assistant coordinator, nobody got the money. I held up a piece of machinery for Saldanha Steel, which was costing Saldanha Steel's supplier $175 million a day. I kept it on that crane for 10 days because they didn't have the paperwork. Through that process, I became very, very strong in terms of legal contracts as a non-legal professional. I was responsible for understanding all kinds of suspensive sales, reading board minutes, Industrial Development Corporation, South African government, legislation, rules, regulations, all of the submissions that were done, both on a technical, engineering, electronic, mechanical, you name it, across the board. I had to be like on top of things. Not a professional, wasn't expected to be, but I needed to have a very well-grounded background into all of that in order to perform my duties. And that is basically where we are at today. And I said to you at the beginning, I don't think there's much more of the previous background in terms of who I am and what I am. Okay, as I've been trying to tell people, I'm not some 22-year-old woke kid sitting in front of a computer working as a keyboard warrior. And that is why I take exception, and I'm telling you straight, to remarks made by people like Mervyn and others.
All right,
Okay,
so,
hold on. No, let me
no,
finish.
let me say something. I'm not so fantastic in my thing. I went to school at Florida Park High School. I served in an apprenticeship. I joined the Hells Angels.
Not good.
Right.
We had some good
I
contacts.
was a South African junior champion speedway rider. And all that I've done, my claim to fame, is that I reduced the crime in Constantia Kruger from 50 to 100 cases a month to where we have sometimes 1 to 10 cases a month. That was my thing that I came here to think. I got no degrees and all the shit that I need. I'm here for the community, to make sure that the community, we've got an undertaking to do this community work, to protect the people that we had crime here. We got people there that were robbed. I go to places, I drive past places, I see people there, I get organized the police. I work together from the old police services, from when Soup Lang was the station commander. We worked together, we did paintball guns, we tried to clear out the copies. I haven't got all these fancy things in that. I don't need it, because I wanted to get protection for the people to save this area. So, thanks very much. It's great. I'll call you sir from now on. But
no,
really, that's great. But I'm looking here at the community in this area.
Okay.
And my thing is there to reduce crime, because I've seen what happens to these people. They have to end up going to hospitals. A friend of mine got shot at his house there. And how that happened, I was lying in bed and I saw there from the CPF, I'm on the CPF, Florida CPF, and I saw a message there, 5 Macmillan Street, a problem. And I said, shit, that's my buddy. I phoned there and his daughter answered the phone, and she said they've been attacked. I got there, I got SAPs there, within minutes we had people there. We found the cell phone. The cops wouldn't go into the place to fetch that cell phone.
Sure.
So that's my thing. I think we come here. I don't care what Mervyn, you said to Mervyn. I've come here. I want to carry on with our Constantia Cliff Residence Forum. I have an obligation that I took on when I took on that job. That's my forte. I fall under the Florida Community Policing Forum. With the guys here, I go to the meeting. I was at the meeting the other night. I go to meetings. I'm the ex-chairperson for I served that time there.
At CPF, Florida.
Florida CPF.
Okay.
So I'm not, all the other things that are happening in this area, I'm really not worried about. I want to look at the crime and the safety of the people in this area. There's certain things that have come in now where we've got serious problems with potholes and the copies, service delivery. There's a lot of things. The councillor is going, she must be going crazy, Leon. I worked a lot with Caleb Finn, right?
You know he's on medical leave at the moment. Eh?
I heard, yes. Yeah. Now it's a stress, nothing else. So I've come here now. I want to see that we can carry on with the safety of our Constantia Cliff Residence Forum. That's my interest here. Once and for
good,
now,
because that's not my interest. So I mean, I don't understand what the problem is.
So then there's no problem.
Okay, then we need to ensure that there's a couple of things that are put in place here. And like I said to Mervyn up front, I've got no problem with the RF at all. I firmly believe now, I said to you, we should not be or shouldn't be talking from our third persona, the NGO. Okay. However, as the director of the NGO, the CKRF is crucial to the area. So don't get me wrong. You guys have got a place and you are supposed to be there and you're supposed to be doing things and everything else. I'm not anti the RF at all. at all. I need to be 100% clear on that. But before we can even get to that aspect, what you need to understand is the build-up that has brought us to the point where we shouldn't be discussing this tonight at this meeting. We should be discussing the NGO. Hence,
What NGO? NGO
Disaster Relief CERT is a community
NGO,
emergency response
NGO
team.
to me is a non-governmental
That's me.
organization. That's what I know.
That's me. That's me.
You.
Yes.
That's great. You've got
That's
another
me.
title. So
Correct.
you've got lots of titles. I'm
That's
very
me.
impressed with that.
And that is why, that is why
I've got no titles.
in May,
I've got the residents forum. I've got the safety of the people in this thing. Now tell me, John Baisley.
yeah,
How's John Baisley going? Did you?
John Baisley.
Are you working with John? Is he?
Well, let me explain. I'm going to answer that. I think you deserve a legitimate, open, and honest answer. Right.
We're open here for answers.
But before you can get to that point, you need to understand the lead up to it. Because without understanding the lead up, there's a total misconception. For example, you said you needed to talk about your plan, security, etc. Okay? Why? And I'll tell you why. The certain members of the CKRF are under the impression that I'm trying to recreate what you are doing. Now I'm going to tell you. No, it hasn't. It's been told. It was told to your group categorically in writing. I saw the message by Jacques Kleinhans.
Right. Well, didn't I suggest you take that up with Jacques?
No.
Let me tell you something.
No.
I back Jacques. Jacques has done wonders for this community of ours. He is the only person that when we decided to do the thing,
he came on board.
He came on board.
No problem.
He started there without, we didn't have
no
a
problem.
Quantity of
no problem.
We had all the things. He's the cheapest on the securities.
Is he really?
Yes, he is.
I beg to differ.
Let me tell you something. He delivers the best service. You can ask any resident in this area.
Gary,
right?
Can I give you the lead up and then we can discuss this?
Yes, give me the lead up. Let me hear what your story is. Because I didn't come here to, I've come here to get a solution.
Right.
And it seems to me, like John Baisley, there's other alternatives. That's the way it comes across to us.
Well, it'd be
You've
interesting
advertised that you're selling now two-way radios. We had two-way radios right in the beginning. Those are finished. They don't work in the area.
Don't they?
Too high copies.
Nah.
And all that stuff.
But anyway,
a cell phone works.
I'm a licensed radio amateur. I sell radios. I sell radios nationally.
Who's the radio handler?
The guy down on the corner.
He's no longer there.
He was.
He was from Sandringham Scouts. He's moved out. He's moved on.
But he was part of us.
Right.
Okay. So.
And then you got the West End Amateur Radio Club down at the bottom.
But why do you want to come and have meetings with us and advertise your radios on our group? And you've got some other stuff that we're not legal or anything like that. So let's go. This thing.
We cannot discuss.
Why do you want to break up a perfectly working solution that's reduced crime in this area? I want to put out to the community that you are going to take this thing. You want us to take this community thing there and not get this thing to work. That's the way I see it.
That's the way you see it because you've been led to believe that without understanding the lead up, the background and everything else. So if you get to the point of understanding the background, and then we get to the point of saying, what was the initial purpose for requesting an urgent meeting with you? Then it's going to be a totally different ballgame. Completely. All of these concerns and frustrations and worries and anxieties that a whole lot of you are having, you will be guaranteed to find they were unnecessary. That's the bottom line. But you need to understand the leader. Because if you don't understand the leader, you are not going to accept what we are supposed to be looking at. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. as I said to Mervyn, I've been in this house 17 years. I've worked in this area for 30 years. I've lived in Constantia Kloof itself for 26 years. I've known nothing about the CKRF.
There's one thing I'm up on you. I've been there long.
Possibly.
70 years I've been in Florida.
No,
There
in
you go.
Constantia Kloof.
In Constantia Kloof, 45 years.
No, I've been here 34, so
Okay, so
too long.
I did a lot of work on the roads here in a voluntary capacity. You probably saw my vehicle at many an accident. You probably saw me running many medical calls and everything else in the late 90s, leading up to 2000, 2006. I actually moved in here in 2006. So I came off the road probably 8 years ago, 9 years ago, because I burnt my lungs on a fire rescue. And I've got emphysema. Naturally, lungs go, heart goes, chronic angina, so I do tend to take it easy. Right, now, I'm on the Constantia Kloof and surrounds WhatsApp group, and people are busy talking and all kinds of conversations are going on. And it just happened during the KZN floods 3 years ago, actually, where I posted an image where one of the mountainsides had collapsed. And I said, look, guys, you do realize that this could be Constantia Kloof, and everybody told me I'm mad, I'm crazy, and everything else. Nobody knows who I am or what I am. Nobody knows that I'm actually trained in disaster relief and management, and that's what I specialize in. Not just on the Constantia Kloof area, I'm trained in large-scale populations. In other words, I'm the type of person that could go in and run an entire op in Ethiopia. That's exactly why I put in the application and ended up getting arrested at Heathrow. Because of the emphysema, I could not continue on the road. Now you must know I'm 59 at the moment. I started this whole episode at the age of 13, funny enough. So I'm many years in the field. And I sought an alternate method within which to give back to the communities. I am a qualified first aid instructor. I'm a qualified primary emergency care instructor. I'm a qualified paramedical instructor. I'm qualified in disaster relief and management, which I do training on. I had done a lot of training on. I looked after 700 volunteers, plus the 40 COs, and of course all the response vehicles. So I had a lot of responsibility, and I worked with everybody, including civil defense relatives. I used to do joint operations with them on a regular basis. I did ops with civil defense on a regular basis. I've worked Joburg Gen, Natalspruit Hospital, Baragwanath Hospital, Tembisa, and Alexander Clinic. So that's the background. Now suddenly I've got to come off the road because I'm a hazard. So I sought something else to do, and I became a licensed radio amateur. There is one other, ZS6LOL, stays in Nolene Street, but he's not active. Then the next closest one is in Helderklein. So we don't have any other radio amateurs within Constantia Kloof or within this immediate vicinity at the moment. Yeah, I think he was. I don't know if he's still there. Yeah, he passed away in Silent Key. Okay, and then of course we've had a lot of people down Witpoortjie side, Helderklein, Ridderkrans. We've got a couple. We've got some down in Honeydew at the moment. But within this immediate vicinity, there isn't anybody else except me. MCOM PDY Limited was started up specifically to bridge the communications gap. Now, from the time that we formed the NGO, we decided, and I'm digressing a bit, we decided that we are going to get our ducks in a row properly first. I formed the community emergency response teams as a business-based organization. Now, this is relevant to everything, because in terms of the Disaster Management Act or the DMA, there are certain categories of volunteers, and I'm fully au fait with the Disaster Management. So much so that the director has actually asked me to do a presentation on international humanitarian law. Okay, that's where we are going ultimately. But I said to John Groom and to Stephen Reynolds, we needed to register as an official NGO and register as a public benefit organization, get everything in order, everything had to be perfect. We did all of our policies, our procedures, our training. We actually started by producing the radio communications training manual. We published the induction training manual, and I spent 2.5 years. Now, this is where you guys come in. And this is where I'm going to stop the discussion on the NGO. This is where you guys come in. You want to know where you can play a role? Here it is, right before you here. This is the role that's going to save lives. You talking about the security aspect, which is great. I haven't got a problem with. However, there is a safety aspect which has got nothing to do with security, but it goes hand in hand to a degree. Just like Sub Rosa. I was a Sub Rosa client, Gary. I was with Sub Rosa for 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm at the point
of
of
any hassle in those 3 years?
a couple of years. I'll tell you about it in a minute. But something else happened.
But I mean, were you broken into, or?
No, I wasn't broken into. I've had one breaking in this premises.
That's my fault.
No, that isn't your fault.
My fault.
It wasn't your fault.
Mine.
I actually think it was.
CKRF
I think it was an inside job.
No, I'm saying the fault that you've only had one.
Oh,
is our fault.
How many have they had? Next door.
I don't know.
You must understand, I used to do his IT for many years. This property belongs to him next door. The only reason I brought Sub Rosa on board was because of the fact that I kept on picking up people watching him. And I got guilty because I kept phoning Sub Rosa and saying, listen, they were a Sub Rosa client at that time. Guys, I think that the vet's been watched. And I said to my son at the time, I think we should in actual fact bring Sub Rosa on so I can justify the calls. Why? Because of my background in the security industry.
Okay.
All right. So this took 2.5 years, and last year during our load shedding and everything else, being on the Constantia Kloof group, I started discussions with people, and our mandate as a registered non-profit company and a SARS-approved public benefit organization is to prepare volunteers to be able to assist and provide local communities with disaster relief and assistance. And our auxiliary principles, objects are in actual fact to create awareness and to train people. And then also assisting providing equipment. And that's where the radio communication comes in. Now, because of my involvement with civil defense, the Marnet and all the rest of it, I got a far greater. You guys go out there and you buy all these cheap, I call them cheap Chinese shit radios, and you try and do communications and you get to the point of exactly where you are at the moment. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Hills, this, that, and all the rest of it. That's exactly what happens. And that's where the problem comes in. That's why I come in as a specialist and I look at it in a totally different manner altogether. So on the group, somebody asked a question, don't we have a CPF here? I thought, that's actually a good idea or a good thing to look into. I mean, I've been here for how many years? I don't know about the CPF either. But I know John Rosenberg from Honeydew very well. I've known him for many years. Some of my volunteers are actually his patrollers, so I'm fully aware of what's going on there. The whole concept of CPF didn't exist in my day within the security industry, and that was the security industry. We don't have a security industry today. We got a private security service provider. It's a totally different ballgame. Even there, the code of conduct is different. Totally different, but it's still got relevant clauses. So let's have a look at the CPF story. What about a block watch? Yeah, okay, I'll tell you what, guys. Let me create a group. Anybody on the group, we were, I think, 125 people on the group at that time. Anybody that wants to join the group to discuss, the possibilities, join the group. Claude from Sub Rosa says to me, sends me a message, Chad, should we also get up on the group? I said, you know what, Claude? Absolutely. Because here is a community. Now, just please bear in mind, and I don't mean to be offensive in any way whatsoever at this point in time, because I want to give you, as the CKRF, fact. That's all. Don't shoot the messenger, because that I do not respect or like at all. I'm only going to relay things from this point onwards. Claude, oh, dude, that's an excellent idea. You guys are in the industry and you can have input into how these guys do this. Hold on a second. This is what, a couple of months later, 8 months later. You know that there was not one CKRF member on that group? And when I looked after 7 days, there were 58 members on the group. And as I said to Mervyn, this attitude that has been instilled over the last couple of months was stupid. Because had I been able to work correctly with those 60 or 58 people, you could have had a potential of 58 more members. That's how stupid this animosity is. You know what? It's no skin off of my nose. I've lost nothing and I've gained nothing. Yet, I'm still putting time in on it. That's how ridiculous this animosity and attacking and disrespect has gone. Where did it start? That's what I need to establish. 58 days later. Guys, I'm not going to run with this. I've got my hands full. I will moderate the group. You guys discuss. Ask your questions. Because of my job as a Microsoft system engineer, I'm here 24 hours a day. If I need to go and research something or Google something, I battled my ass off to get hold of the chairman of the Florida CPF, and I was told, don't bother, they're a waste of fucking time.
Who told you that?
Many people.
The chairman of the Florida CPF.
No.
You just said that.
No. You asked who said. Yeah, you said who told me that.
They're a waste of fucking time.
Correct.
Right.
No, hang on a second.
No,
hold on.
Serious. You're making some
No.
accusations.
I'm not making accusations.
Okay.
I just said, don't shoot the messenger. People have said to me, don't waste your time. And I sat back and I thought, you know what? On the broadest scheme of things, I need to remain neutral and impartial from this side. Why? Because in terms of the Disaster Management Act, the CPF has got a role to play here, which is going to impact us here. Therefore, I cannot take sides. The same thing applies when it comes to the security industry or the medical services. I cannot give preferential treatment to Netcare, who's across the road from me, or to ER24, or to EmergyMed, or to ComMed, or to Help 24 EMS. I cannot do it. I have to remain neutral and impartial. So through the back doors, I'm being told, now this is the CPF. Nonetheless, I managed to get hold of 2 people on the CPF. They joined the group. Everything is hunky-dory fine. I put the message out. I say, guys, listen, I'll moderate the group. Somebody here in the group now must stand up as a leader and do whatever. And still not a single word about CKRF, right? Nothing. Zip, zero, zilch. You guys are nowhere to be found. That's not my fault. Next thing, there's a message that comes up on screen. Something along the lines of, we work closely with the CKRF or are contracted to the CKRF, and therefore we will not be participating in this conversation. My recommendation is that everybody on this group join CKRF. Goodbye. All the best for the future, and he's gone. Leaves the group. Holy shit. But he says I'm the owner of Sub Rosa. I've never met the Oak. I'm his client for 3 years. I've never met him. And this is the attitude that's put out on the group. First thing that went through my mind, I'm a Sub Rosa client. Or at least the property is. And he's telling me that there's something going on with the CKRF. First thing that came to mind was conflict of interest. Legally, not personally. I don't know the guy. I can't be personal at this point. All right, let's deal with it. Send him a message. Hi, I'm going to give you a call in a sec. I needed to get charger for the phone. He reads the message. Phone's in. Phone him. No reply. Chad, be reasonable. It's load shedding. 10 minutes into load shedding, I got no signal yet. None. Zip, zilch, zero. Fuck all. Send him a message again. Sorry, did the call not go through? Reads the message. I phone him again. Declined. I send a message. I said, now I'm blocked. I sent Claude a message. Claude, did you see this message now from your boss apparently? Now, this is the Wednesday night. The Monday morning, I asked Claude to swing by me when he's on duty because I wanted to implement in Constantia Kloof what I've been running for 3 years in Valtervreden Park. But I need to discuss it with Sub Rosa, firstly, because of the fact that they are my service provider. Claude says to me, Chad, I'm actually off. I'm spending time with my son. I'm back at work on Thursday. I'll swing by on Thursday. Cool. Thanks, Claude. No problems. Claude, George, Fabian, virtually all of them had been out here because of the number of calls that I put through in the last 2 years, including 2 where my outside alarm went off, and one of them was a spider just so bloody big in the middle of a rainstorm. Okay, so I've got no qualms with CKRF, Sub Rosa response officers, but I've got a dick of a guy now telling me blocked. Claude, seriously, what's wrong with Chad? I don't know what's going on. I said, you know, I find that so fucking unprofessional of the guy. Does he even realize that I'm one of his clients? He says, can I send these messages to him tomorrow? I said, yeah, let him know, because yeah, we need to have a chat. No, I don't hear anything, and I don't know if it's this one, so if it's not this one, I will just select the right one. I want you to hear it for yourself. It's only about 60 seconds. If it's going to play there. It's loading.
Good chat. This is Jock from Samarosa.
Too loud.
Firstly, I don't understand your comment that I'm being unprofessional.
Doesn't understand the comment about that, but he is being bloody unprofessional to block me.
It is my opinion that you haven't the slightest idea. Maybe your intentions is good, but I don't think you know how to do it.
Really? Does he realize that while he was still busy with SAPS, I was already running a security company and growing it in the background?
Great.
Okay, now wait, let me finish. Let me finish. Wait. No, I'm not. I'm saying that he hasn't got the right to, in actual
Why
fact,
do you have the right to address him like that?
to address him like what? That he's unprofessional.
Yeah. Okay, well,
Because he blocked me.
Play the thing.
Because he blocked me.
Chad,
Gary?
Chad, listen here. Let's cut out all this bullshit. What we want to do, you got this disaster management thing.
We can't discuss that.
Things like it. Well, I don't want to discuss.
We can't.
But you stick to your side of the stuff.
What is my side of the stuff, Gary? Like seriously, Gary. Okay, bottom line. Bottom line. No, I don't. No, I don't. I want you to grow it.
Run the fucking thing, and you do your shit here. What you do?
Listen, dude.
Leave me alone, and I'll leave you alone.
Listen here. Your own members are the ones that are telling me you guys are failing. Well, I'm trying to keep out of it.
And tell them. Let them come and tell me.
Really? Why don't you take it up with the CKRF then? Because
since John Baisley spoke to me and he said you were the instigator in his shit that he had too.
What shit did John Baisley have? Do you know that John Baisley's got one of my radios, Gary?
Yes, he said it doesn't work.
Oh, it doesn't work.
Wait, listen.
We talk on a regular basis.
Listen, I think we're going to, let's excuse ourselves here, because this thing is going to cause a lot of shit.
Gary, just sit down for a minute, please, and I'll quietly tell you something.
I'm going to say something now.
Yeah.
And you got this all on recording and everything like that. But you've told me how great you are. I told you I'm not.
That's not what this is about,
I'm not
Gary.
such a great guy like you. But you carry on being great.
Gary, you know that you do not represent the CKRF.
I don't represent anybody.
No, you don't. You cannot
But
call
I'm
yourself
coming
the
here as
chairman.
Gary Marsh.
Right.
I'm coming here as Gary Marsh now.
Okay.
That for something that we've created. You've created your stuff. You told me that's taken
My stuff has got
years.
nothing to do with you, and your stuff has got nothing
my
to do
stuff
with
has got
me.
nothing to do with you.
Agreed. So what's your problem?
So let's call it a day. We'll
No,
get on with our
we can't
CKRF.
call it a day because I will not be disrespected, number one. Number two, as an NGO, I need to sit with you on an official basis, which this has been turned upside down because of people like Jacques Kleinhans.
Because of you and Jacques.
What about me? What did I do?
Why don't you go fuck Jacques up? Why don't you go fuck
Gary,
him up?
what did I do to Jacques? Tell me.
Listen.
Tell me, what did I do to Jacques?
You got a very aggressive attitude.
No, I'm pissed because I've been disrespected.
You've been drinking. Oh, you mean you've been drinking?
No, I don't drink at all.
Well, what do you
At
say?
all.
You're pissed.
I'm annoyed.
You're annoyed.
Because
you're annoyed. I'm annoyed.
Right, so then hear the truth
Okay,
let's find the solution.
Right, give us a solution.
And in order to understand the solution,
Quieten down.
fine, I'll quieten down. In order for us to find the solution, you need to understand the problem. And you are not looking at the problem, you are looking at emotion every single time.
I don't have problems. I have challenges.
Can I just say something? I think, just to quote one particular instance, I think everybody gets overexcited. You accused me on the phone of bullying.
No, I didn't.
You did.
I did not.
Oh,
I told you you disrespected me, Mervyn. I said you disrespected me and attacked me on the Bristow Street group. There's a big difference. It was Hector that referred to me as the bully.
Listen.
Yes.
Yes, he called me a bully. No, I never said you were calling me a bully.
Hang on. Listen, what is the way forward? Can we carry on with our Constituent Cliff Residence Forum?
You can. I want you to grow it. I want you to grow it. I want to be able to go to 500 people on a Constantia Cliff group and say, guys, support them. But instead I'm getting this attitude. Give me one reason why I should tell 500 people to support you. One reason.
We haven't got 500.
I've got 506 people on the Constantia Cliff and Surrounds group.
But how many of those people, sorry, Gary, to interrupt, how many of those people fall out? I told you yesterday, I gave you the thing, and it's on the website. There's a CKRF.
How many of those people are in your designated area? Probably about 380. Okay, now, when your own members on that public group, which includes your designated area, CKN, Honeydew and surrounding areas, come up on the group and say, hey guys, I just got an invoice for CKRF. What are we paying them for? You know, that's another reason for me being a facilitator, to be able to come to you as a chairman and say, Gary, you need to be aware of the sentiment, that underlying sentiment, so that you can walk away and discuss it with the committee and find a way to resolve it, and even better still, get a representative on that group to address the matters. How many times have I asked CKRF members, message to the CKRF members on the group, please ask the committee to make contact with me. Whether they have or whether they haven't, I don't know. Do you know how many, do you know that I've had your telephone number on my system for 2 years? Do you know how many times I've left messages for you?
Not once.
At least a dozen times.
Why don't I get them?
I don't know, which is the second problem. I send emails to you as the chairman at CKRF and to the secretary. Nobody gets them. And then I'm accused of sending it to the wrong address. But guess what? You want the proof? I only deal in proof. I took it off of your website and I sent it through. And my server logs tell me it was delivered to you and to the secretary. Mervyn, you're right. When you say, I never got it, you're right, I never sent it to you. According to the website, you're the treasurer. This that I'm going to discuss hasn't got anything to do with him. It's to do with you as the chairman. From one chairman to another. But I asked for 2 people. If you decided to bring Mervyn with, that's cool. He's part of the committee. But the fact is, your own members are sending me messages telling me to tell the CKRF where they can get off. Your own members are actually, you know how embarrassed I was when somebody, and if you want me to find it, I've got it in the history chat. What are we paying the CKRF for? We might as well not pay it and pay it to Chad. He's doing a better job. Gary, you've got a problem, not me. A second reason to reach out to the CKRF and bring it to your attention. Subsequently, I've said to members, both CKRF and non-CKRF, that you've just expressed, why don't you put it on the group? No, Chad, I'm not prepared to. Why? Because I'm afraid if I put it on the group and I hit my panic subrosa, it's not going to pitch. Gary, I've got a problem. There's a voice note. Chad, if you drive around Constantia Kloof, there are many ADT signs, but we never see ADT patrolling. Okay? Your comments on the Bristow group, in particular, I agree with you. We don't. But do you two realize that no security service provider is obligated to patrol the streets in terms of their act?
That's fine. That is obligated. No,
correct. Let me go back to ADT because I know what you can say and I'm going to agree with you. They should do it. Okay, go Mervyn.
No security service is obligated
correct.
To patrol. But the discussion I had with you yesterday was I had an incident with Chuck. 5 hours I waited for them. When they arrived, the guy told me they had 80 calls.
Correct.
He's not obligated to call you.
He's not. Because it's called a best effort service. Yeah. Okay, they have to find a way in terms of the code of conduct, but it is the very same. And being CPF, you'll appreciate where I'm coming from. We got the same problem with SAPS at the moment. But let's go a step further. Things that you are starting to look at, like the potholes, service delivery. I mean, the whole structure is collapsing. The private security service providers, they are here to provide a service. They're not here to dictate terms like this that I still wanted to finish playing for you. And I want you to hear this because this is crucial.
You want to invite
Let me see if I can just get rid of that chatter quickly.
Chad, would it be okay if I put out on the group tomorrow that Chad says that the security companies are not obliged to provide you?
Too late, dude. I've done it 100 times. No, because you're not on our group, are you? And I'm not on your group, except the Bristow group. You want me to go down that route? There's another one, as the CKRF. I'm not trying to pick a fight with you guys. I want to point something out to you so that you can correct it. So that there is a solution, that it is beneficial to the community as a whole, on every level.
That's part of why we're here.
Correct.
Try and find a solution. And like I said to you yesterday, we started CKRF 2003 with 20 people. We're down to Gary, who you heard is a bit older than you, me, who's a lot older than you, and Terry, who's also older than you. That's what we left with. We left with guys that don't have the computer skills. They don't have the CRT skills. We need, as I said to you, we need to look at potholes. We need to look at the infrastructure in the area. We need to look at the copies to clean these things out. You've got a copy over here now at Golf Club Terrace. I saw this morning from my window because I look out onto that house. There's a house on the corner there, belongs to the Portuguese at number 21, eh? The guys piled out over the wall, 3 of them. I don't know if they're now occupying that house, Because nobody's occupied that house in 20 years, 30 years. So we need people to monitor, to help, to do things. And
I'm
it
with
cannot
you.
be done with 3 people. It's just
Fine.
simple
Then
impossibility.
you
But
two
we
in
need to-
particular now need to listen.
We need
Like
to
seriously,
develop
no
something.
emotions. If there's any emotions, let me be the one to be emotional, because
No,
there's a
let
lot to
nobody
it.
be emotional,
No,
please.
unfortunately, you know what? I'm the type of person. I took a student of mine off to Microsoft with one of the international speakers, and in the auditorium, okay, the executive management at Microsoft I knew very well in the day, and I stood up and I actually did a presentation for about 20 minutes, just off the bat. And my poor guy said to me on the way home, he was so embarrassed. I said, what? He said, because you could just stand up and talk like that, and you are vocal about it, and you animate and everything else. He's never seen anything like that. Okay, fine. He was only 19 years, just come out of school. Just listen. Let me see if I can get this.
Onto this group and share critical information about the security and safety of community members.
Okay, so what he was saying there is you want to bring people on for these security related issues, which was wrong, because this was a discussion group for the community to decide whether they should form a block watch, a neighborhood watch, or join the CPF. And had CKRF had representation on the group, CKRF could have said, here's our project. Maybe you can tie in and fit in on that. You see, then we would have had a fourth alternative. But in true CKRF fashion, nowhere to be found. Not my fault at all. Had somebody said to me at that time in February, CKRF, had somebody then brought up CKRF, I would have again reached out to you and probably have still ended up with you never got the emails. I'm not against you guys. I'm for you guys. Right across the board. So just listen to the rest of this conversation.
2 of those companies don't comply with the legislation. Criminal cases have been opened against. The third one has been implicated on numerous occasions. There's video evidence even of an armed robbery in Moody Street, where they actually stand and work with the armed robbers.
Right. That's where I stopped the video. I mean the playback. That very night. And I've never listened beyond that point, because I am fully aware of the fact that what Jacques Kleinhans has done is committed a criminal contravention of the code of conduct. By actually referring to, there's this particular term, I'll give it to you, there's a particular term where he has accused other security service providers of criminal activity. And no service provider is entitled to do that in terms of the act. The bottom line, to cut it short, from that point, I had no further contact with Jacques at all. But the CK anti-crime group that was created 2.5 years ago, as a result of a comment I made on the Constantia Kloof group whilst I was working, Sub Rosa posted a message. There was a break-in, armed robbery at point A. 2.5 hours later, they post a second message. A couple of blocks away, we got a second armed robbery. An hour after that, the third message comes through. Yet again, a couple of blocks away. And it could have been from David Street to Pauline Street. I'd have to go back and have a look at the exact streets. Guess what? 30 minutes, 20 minutes between each armed robbery. Suspect vehicle, grey Ford. Suspect vehicle, grey Ford. Suspect vehicle, grey Ford. I thought, guys, I put a voice note out. I said, guys, am I the only one that missed this? And somebody created the anti-crime group.
Sorry, this would be very interesting, because we get the crime stats from Captain Euster. we get the crime stats, and that would show up there, and he would say to us at our meeting, and he would say to us, yeah, this has happened at this place and this place. He doesn't give the details of the thing, but at that address and that address, this has
Yeah,
happened.
he
and
protects
that's
the
happened.
personal information.
Yes, no personal information. And then we would say, hey, hang on, guys, we need to do something here. What happened I can tell you what happened once in the history of the thing. It's a couple of years ago. We had a case here where they were down where, what's the street where, Terry Street? Renette Street. We had a thing there, and there was people breaking in different places there. And Jacques said to me, he says, tonight I'm going to show you something.
I'm listening. I just want to pull this up here.
He said, tonight I'm going to show you something, and I'll let you know. He says it will be between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock. At about 8:30, he phoned me. He said, the guys caught me. I said, what do you mean they caught you? He said, there's been a group that they were after. He says, but there's not one group, there's two groups. They caught one group, but the other group didn't.
Okay.
But that was an operation that he did. He took me into his confidence to hear the thing. That was what happened there. They arrested those guys. Was part of the group. But we still couldn't get the other group. So we have had workings there. And as I say, we work with the SAPs. I can sit here now and I can tell you now I could make a phone call to SAPs and
Control Echo 1, just checking in. Oh, I spoke over him. Sorry, I just got it. I don't want to miss him yet.
okay.
Control Echo 1, checking in, all in order.
Chad, if I can just maybe try and let's put a lid on the pot, because it's just.
Well, we actually at the end of the stew on this one, just on the final note.
A lot of what you've raised, and I'm not saying that it's irrelevant, it's not valid, it's not true, it's not whatever it is, but it's all related to largely, if I listen correctly, Sabrosa and Chad.
No, Sabrosa and Jacques Kleinhans. Leave Chad out of this.
Well,
You see, just because Chad is the one that's the administrator, Chad is the one that's causing the shit.
You've got on your thing, you're unhappy about the calls.
No, that's what he's directed to me because of the fact that he's implicated the CKRF, which I feel he should not have done that. That's why if there was a contract, then he might have been able to do it. And if there was a contract, one would have to question the validity of the contract, number two. And if there isn't a contract, and you did tell me there's no contract, then he had no right to implicate the CKRF. I had, of the 60 people, Gary, people coming back to me and saying, bloody hell, does that mean that we can't form a neighborhood watch or join the CPF because we were forced to join the CKRF? You know the reply I've had to put out there.
Nobody was forced to join the CKRF.
But according to that message of Jacques, that's the implication.
I can't see that, but anyway, maybe I've
everybody on this group must join the CKRF. What do you think the people are going to think?
They have to join the CKRF.
Fine,
on the group,
we know that.
The people can join the CKRF because it is an existing group.
Not a problem.
And to date, say what you like, we've had a fair track record.
I'm not going to dispute it.
Crime in the area.
I'm not going to dispute it.
So that's
because I'm not against you.
That's our mandate from the people. So, right. So
the end result, Gary, let me finish.
Who is part of that?
Let me finish this.
Jacques Kleinhans.
Fine, but then Jacques Kleinhans and the CKRF need to understand the actual role without creating a negative impression on either party. You see, from the NGO side, from the NCOM side, and from the Chad Milam personal persona, the CKRF is a necessity on all three levels. But so is Sabrosa on all three levels. So why the fuck must I have a problem with the owner of Sabrosa? Why must I sit here knowing he's contravened the code of conduct?
Shall I phone Jacques and tell him to come through here now?
No, because
Why? How can I phone him and tell him to
I'll
come
tell you
through?
what. No, let
No,
me
I
finish.
want to speak.
Wait a minute.
I'm going to speak to Jacques
Before
because
you
I'm in
finish.
charge of that team.
No,
I'm
okay,
going
but
to
wait
tell
a
him to
minute,
come here and
Gary.
he's gonna-
Let me finish it, and then you decide whether you phone him.
No, I phone him
Because
now. I
no,
want
no,
the
wait.
shit-
But you got
I
it.
want the shit sorted out now.
Wait. The rest of the shit, that shit. To be quite honest with you,
Jacques can
I don't
sort
need
his
to
own
worry
shit out.
about it.
He
But
can
let me
sort his
tell
own
you the
shit out.
rest of it now. Now, the group has decided that, well, now we can't form a neighborhood watch, block watch, or join the CPF because we have to join the CKRF. The whole group fell apart.